Now, seeing as tuples are immutable objects, there isn't too much we can do with them. So the good news is there are actually only two methods we can call on a tuple object. So let's first of all create my_tuple, and we'll set this equal to a tuple of integers, and we'll put 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1 and 1. Now the two methods we have available to us are count and index. So if we first of all call the count method on the myTuple variable which stores a tuple object, inside these parentheses we can pass in the value that we want to be counted within the tuple. So if we put the integer 1 as an example, we return 6 as there are 6 elements inside of this tuple that are of the integer 1. So inside this count method we can pass in a value, whether that be an integer or a string, and it will count the number of elements that equal that value. Now the second method we can call is the index method, and this will bring back the index of the first occurrence of the value that you put within the parentheses. So if we put my_tuple, then our dot, then index, and then inside square brackets put the value 2. Before we run this, we can see that the index of the value 2 is actually index 4 because it's element 5. So when we run this code, we do indeed bring back the index value 4. Now if I change this 2 to be the value 1, you can see that we get index 0, as it brings back the index of the first occurrence of this value. Now we've seen before that we can pass in a second argument to the index parameter, which is whereabouts in the sequence we want to start the method from. So if I put 5 as the second argument, you can see that it brings back index 7. This is because it's starting from element 6, and the first occurrence of 1 then occurs where that occurrence of 1 is at index 7. So we can either pass in one argument, which will pick up the first occurrence of the value from the start of the tuple, or we can pass in a second argument in addition to the first, which will change whereabouts the search starts from. Now one other thing I want to show you, which we've already seen before, is tuple membership. So we can see whether a value exists in a tuple or not in a very similar way to how we've seen with lists. And this is done by using the in operator. So we can put 1 in myTuple, and of course this is true, there are many of them. We can then put 5 in myTuple, and because 5 does not exist as an element inside this tuple, it brings back false. Now we can also use the not in operator, so if I change 5 in myTuple to be 5 not in myTuple, we then obtain the value true. And this comes in very useful when it comes to conditional statements, which we'll see in a subsequent section. So remember, there are two methods we can use: count, which counts the value that you stipulate within the tuple itself, and index, which brings back the first occurrence of the value that you stipulate back as an index. We can also use tuple membership, where we simply use the in operator or not in operator to ascertain whether a value is inside the tuple or not.